FM enthusiasts, I see you. You lost weight. You look great. Dan said so. This is FME Attention Undivided.
Mm,
And this is a long form interview
sure.
with a pioneer, a hip hop Highlander who's been a part of it since it started, really. Scratching rhymes on the caves in Philadelphia back when it was Pangea.
Mm,
Very excited to talk to. This is a podcaster. He's a rap artist. He's an entrepreneur.
mm.
He rise and grind. Used to be a Green Lantern. He is Zilla Rocca,
What's up?
Billy Zone.
What's up, man? This is awesome. I'm really excited just to
Uh,
kick it.
we're releasing Vegas Vic on July 30th.
Oh, we out here. Yeah, Chong Wizard Records. We're coming. We're
Chong
coming. We're
Wizard.
back.
Shout out to Chong Wizard.
Shouts to
Who
Chong.
fucking works it.
He does,
Works it.
man.
Merch magistrate. He's doing.
Our DMs are like seemingly just about business and not even our business. Just the turnaround of merch, taxes, shipping. And I'm like, that's all me and Cash are talking about. Unless we're talking about sports and music and Marvel and whatever, it's like, all right, make sure you get that order out. All right, what we need for this. This person said they didn't get it. Yo, stop by, drop off the stickers. All right, we're doing shipping now. That's what we are. We're importers, exporters, like Art Vandelay.
Everything that he puts out is beautiful looking, and it's great. So
Yeah, shouts to John, man. It's funny. I was just texting yesterday. I think it was to whoever. It might have been Griff or whoever. And I was like, yo, sometimes Chong really does the most on Twitter, man.
oh yeah,
But
oh yeah.
however, when it comes to design, when it comes to how to package something, it comes to presentation, like he's unmatched. I really don't know anybody else who consistently, even if I'm not in love with an album or the artist itself, I'll always peep it just because the amount of attention he puts into it. So shouts to Chong.
Yep. And anyone in association in orbit to Chris Crack is exciting on Twitter. That's just
You're right. I never thought about
the
that.
degrees
It's a
of it.
deliberate
You know what I
choice.
mean?
It's a choice you make.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. So that's cool. And but no, it's exciting. I was thinking about it. So to go back to a Scorsese story,
Mm.
Scorsese really helped me understand the Wrecking Crew dynamics. I
Oh,
got a
word.
chance to interview him, and one goofy question I had at the end
Oh, I
was,
remember this. I remember this.
which X-Men, I said, which comic book characters would Wrecking Crew be? I opened it all up. He said, it's X-Men. That's it. And he laid it out. He said, Small Pro is Beast.
Mm.
Uh,
He
that
is beast.
Alaska is Professor X.
True.
Uh, that Castro is Wolverine.
Okay.
And that you are Cyclops.
Yeah, I love that one. That meant a lot to me. I liked when he said that. That was funny.
And that really helped me kind of frame the dynamics and
Who did he say Prem was?
I don't think
Dazzler?
I was thinking about it last night. I think Prem might be Gambit. He might have
Wow, he is. He is Gambit. Okay. I like that.
yeah, I'm improving upon that. And so it's yeah, no, it was really helpful in terms of the different strengths of the crew and different people. And Vegas Vic salutes the progress of not just you, but the entire crew.
Thanks, dude.
And there's one thing that really fucks me up about it uh, that I had to tell you. I don't even have a formulated question about it because
Okay.
it's just in my mind. The title track, Vegas Vic, is produced
Yes.
by Doc Heller, Darko the Super,
Correct.
a man of many names.
Yes.
And Darko the Super was in the 38th chamber where you are right now
Right.
and told State of the Game that you like he was 13 years old handing out tapes
Yes.
when he handed his tape to you and that it was
Yes.
terrible and that he had like a loser cover on it.
Yes.
And so when the song started and you actually say before you start rapping, like, we did it, you say some shit like that.
Right. Right.
Like, what if he's talking to fucking Darko? Like, dude, we were out on these streets. Like, we were not a bit. You were 13, I was 48, and
Yeah.
now we're here.
Yeah, I was actually talking to my son. He was engineering the session. So I was like, yo, busting on tape deck knobs. He's got the Ninja Turtle underwear on. I was talking about my son. And I just kept it in there. I was like, yo, I was like, press pause right here, put the headset on. So
Mhm.
he helped me with that session. But I remember when Darko gave me that CD. Um, I forget what venue it was. But he was someone I had an encounter before at shows and in Philly, and he's a really tall guy,
Right.
and he's got, like curly hair and like glasses, and he's got a big smile. He's real friendly. And he gave me the CD, and it's like I've actually had like a lot of interesting journeys with people that just give you the CD at the show.
Right.
Most of them, who cares? But the ones that, even if I don't like the music or something, maybe the packaging could be a little bit better, I'll look at it and be like, there's something interesting about this person. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see what happens with this guy or girl. And so he was one of those people where I was like, the fact that this dude walked up to me in Philly, where looking like him, rhyming like him in terms of presentation is a no go. He's out here doing it, trying and giving that out to people and being as free and artsy and strange and interesting and eccentric as he wants to be. I was like, that takes a lot of guts, dude.
Right.
So as when he gave it to me, I didn't forget, and I told him that one of my old rap partners, his name used to be Johnny Darko. So when I
Mhm.
saw someone else named Darko, I'm like, well, maybe he's a better version, because that guy was actually Wild Buns, and I'm glad we kind of went our separate ways. He wasn't very good. But yeah, so shouts to Darko. I'm glad I got to use him. I actually made the song Vegas Vic, and then when we were thinking about a title for the record, we had a couple other ideas. And then Barry and I, Disco Vietnam, who executive produced with me, he was like, "We just need to call it Vegas Vic, bro. It's just got to be the name of the album." And I was like, "I don't want to cheat. I never wanted to cheat and use a song title as an album title."
Right. Right. Right.
But once we did that, I was like, "Yeah, it has to be that." So shouts to Darko for inspiring all that too.
That's awesome. No, and I know that that means a lot because you're really into sequencing and really into the
Definitely.
particulars of album development, and to make that step with this, I just, that feels like a part of it, right? Like that
Right.
feels like a symbolic part of Vegas Vic. Is, I think you've said, it's about gambling on yourself. It's about
Right.
taking the next step, but it's also about finding, like, basically culling your friend circle
Hmm.
until you have a group of like-minded people who want to do the same thing
Yes.
and want to
It's
bet on
it's big.
themselves, and you guys get better together.
100%. And it's been interesting to think about, like, when I sit back and look at all of our catalogs, me, Castro, Prem,
Mhm.
Smalls, it's really a snapshot of like our Rolodex at the moment. Like, who do we have access to at that time? Who was like a hot one off that we were able just to snag, and that
Right,
person blew
right.
up? Who's someone we love that just never really did much?
Mhm.
Whereas now it's like a lot of people that we know of or have seen or have done shows with or just see on Twitter or Instagram or something. We all are evaluating everybody, and I think they're doing it to us. And the 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 impetus of a lot of the combos we have now is like, yo, why is this person always complaining? Yo, this person wants all this and they never did any work. Yo,
Right.
this person is mad about XYZ, never left their city. Yo, this person didn't really do a good rollout. Yo, this person is killing it, but has no physicals. Like, what are you gonna tell people on the show? Yo, check me on Spotify. So like, we're always now thinking about that. Like, oh, great. I'm gonna go home. Make sure you just add me on title. No. So it's been an interesting maturation for all of us separately, but also like paring down and moving away from the people where it's like, yeah, I just want to, rap on a Tuesday night for 7 people and lose money. We're
Mhm.
like, no, like, I don't want to do that. I did
No.
that from 2004 to 2012 every week. Like, I'm good. So it's, yes, it's the snapshot of it now is like anybody who's involved. I think we're all looking at each other like, yep, I see you. I get it. Like, game recognizes game, which
Right.
is cool, because all of us have limitations. You know what I mean? So to even be thought of in that way by somebody and feeling it likewise is it's important. You know what I mean? Because we all kind of know over a long enough timeline, we see like who's really about it and who's not. You know what I mean? So I think for this record, that's over time that wasn't the case for me. Like now it is. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
gotta move on.
No, and back when we were younger, it was about it was that that Jay Z line of who's the best, Biggie, Jay Z, or Nas. It was like
Right.
people arguing about who was the best all the time
Right.
and who was slept on and all that. And some of that, looking back, was kind of designed by these record labels
100%.
to be like it was almost like robot jocks, where it was like this is my Loud Records representative.
Right.
This is my Def Jam representative.
Yeah.
Um, but now it seems it's less about critiquing. It seems like it's more about scouting.
Yeah. It was a thing, I used to say it on the internet a lot, like prospects are bullshit. Because what I started noticing was that a lot of the rap press was like prospecting. It was like it was like being in the scouting department for the Kansas City Royals. It's not
Right.
about running the Royals or being the GM or the player. It's about being the scout and then wanting to let everybody know, like, see, I caught him in a cornfield when he was 16, hitting 4 home runs. I was there. And it's like, all right, but then he made it to the team and then he outperformed his contract and became an all-star. And then like you're okay. You're still looking at cornfields like that.
Right.
That person zoomed past. So I think it's been interesting to see, uh, being like lusting for that at one point when I was younger. Like, yeah, man, why don't they like me like they like Asher Roth and Wale? What the
Mhm.
hell? Well, look where those guys are now. Like, no shots at them, but it's like they're on very weird specific journeys the same way everybody else from a XXL freshman cover was. So I think now I think it's cool because my friends and I we're older than we've ever been, but I think it's worked to our advantage. Like I think I was texting this a small pro. I think more and more most rappers in their 20s that have like a moment or a great album or something, if you look at it over time, it's mostly lightning in a bottle.
Mm.
It's not like this continual sustained anything. It's like they were in the right time of their life with the right situation, with the right group of friends, with right whatever, and it hits. And then like it usually never hits like that again. You know what I mean?
Well, and so I have an Asher Roth theory that
Go for it.
that kind of ties into a white rapper theory, right?
Do it.
Um, because there's like it is definitely easier to make it as a white rapper.
100%.
Cold take, right? That is
Right.
a cold
Mm-hmm.
take.
Right.
But it is much easier to burn out as a white rapper.
Oof. True.
Because and Asher Roth is a great example because I will always feel sad whenever people mention Asher
Mhm.
Roth, because he they pushed him too early. He was
Totally agree.
still he was still making mixtapes, the
Right.
greenhouse effect things, and he was having fun rapping about weed
Yeah,
and just kind of finding his footing a little bit.
definitely.
Um, and you know, you compare that with somebody like I don't know why it comes to my mind, but I've just been writing about AJ Suede.
Hell yeah.
Uh, and AJ Suede was able to release a bunch of projects
Right.
on his own, find his footing, 6 tracks here, 7 tracks here, 10 tracks here, 11 tracks here, like, and just kind of explore different dimensions of himself and
Right.
get to where he wanted. And
Totally.
if you're a white rapper, Krayshawn or whoever,
Oh
they're
shit.
they're gonna snap you up and they're
Yes.
gonna throw you up there and then they're gonna throw you out. You know,
True.
uh, yeah,
Because as you can see, it's like it's a high risk, high reward market with white rappers. So if the most successful big rapper of all time is white, and his first album hit pretty nicely, and then every album after that became a way for everybody to get summer houses at
right,
Interscope. Like
straight up,
they want that. You know what I mean? Like I remember
right,
when Asher like grew his hair out and was doing like paps and jazz and all that. And I was like, oh, that might be interesting. Like that's probably a lot cooler for this guy. You know what I mean? Rather than rap
yep,
on like industry beat 503, I love college where like they try to give that to apathy. back in the day.
Oof.
Like that beat was circulating in the industry. The same way,
Wow.
like, movie scripts kind of circulate
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that was like an industry beat that was just anybody could have got it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So then he got it.
That's terrible. But yeah, no, that stuff to me is fascinating because people just get snapped up and they're just marketable,
Right.
uh, and we all know what the code thing is there, and then boom, they pop, but they don't have the longevity,
No.
they don't have the legacy. Um, it's just weird, but so you would think it would be better to be Asher Roth than Dead Prez, but it really isn't. Really.
No. Who might have like the best white rapper career that's not, massive, massive guy is probably Evidence or Aesop. You know what I mean? Like we were checking for them in 97, 98. I'm checking for them today. And they do well. They tour. People are interested in what they're doing. They have their fans. You know what I mean? Like presentation, collaborators are always interesting. And
Yeah.
they're like mid 40s, just getting busy.
The guy who survived, maybe who's the oh, maybe the Bob Seger of white rappers? You
That's
ready
a
for
good one.
this?
Yeah.
Everlast. Everlast is the Bob
Wow.
Seger of white rappers.
He definitely has like the most rock radio spins ever. Like that song was big, man. Everywhere they played that for years.
And then he flipped it
Outside of
into
Jump Around.
La Coca Nostra and shit. Like
Yeah,
he
and he
was
did that.
and
I remember even like my cousin had like a very passing interest in rap. He's like 3, 4 years younger than me. He was really big into like the beat poets and rock and all this. He had like the Whitey Ford Sings the Blues CD.
right,
I was like, damn, he's rocking with this stuff too. Okay.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
what I got a free copy of that uh that album, the big album that he had,
Right.
because a friend of mine who was like a rock guy, like an Eve 6 guy,
Shouts to Eve 6.
uh, he he bought that album based on the single, thinking it was a rock album.
It's a Dante Ross, Sadat X featured like rap ass album.
And it's a rapping ass album,
It
and he
really
was
is.
like, "Man, you can have this shit, man." And I was like, "All right, I'll give it a shot."
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
yeah, because Everlast was big for white people in major
Oh yeah.
cities who felt
100%.
left out. Like they went to
Yeah.
hip hop shows and they were the only white guy at the hip hop show,
Right.
and they needed somebody that they could pin their hopes on and shit.
Yes.
But I was always in Maine, and I was always like, "No, I've got too many. I'm full up on white people, so I don't care about any of this." So I never really checked him until the later on side, and I was like, "Wow, he's made smart moves. He's made
Smart.
like smart moves over the years."
And still kept it a G. You know what I mean? Like still being on the Prince Paul album. You know what I mean? Like he's on Dilated People's albums. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like he's on
Yep.
the West Coast people's records that are respected.
Right. I mean, he's the he's the bad
Bob
guy on the
Seger.
Prince of Thieves thing, isn't he? Like
Yes. He was the villain in Judgment Night, dude.
amazing.
Him and Dennis Leary.
God
Eric
damn.
Schrody.
Yeah. So this ties into a real question.
Okay.
You. So which album do you think is the one your audience holds you against? Do you feel any pressure to swing towards
Ah.
boom bap, feel good nostalgia, since you have a
Hmm.
natural affection for that era?
I think my most successful records, like 96 Mentality was my most successful just solo album.
Mm.
And before that, my most successful album was Good Luck with That, me and Small Pro Career Crooks.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
that was like the beginning of it was an interesting time. That was like
17?
2017.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and that was like Bandcamp best albums of the year, which was crazy to me. Um, so we were on that short list, which blew my mind because Small Pro and I have been making shit like that since like '07, '08. And then we just always were sprinkling songs with each other and doing stuff. But that record, and then we were doing a lot of shows off that record and seeing the reaction to that live. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, this is just gonna be some fun rhyming, like whatever. I never just done some fun rhyming on stage for a whole set. I've always tried to do, take left turns and do shit. But
Right.
That record really hit. And then I did Future Former Rapper, and that like kind of hit a little bit. Um, but that album, I was like really trying. I really thought at the time like I wasn't gonna make any more music, so I
Mm,
was like, I'm gonna just call in all my old favors, do every style I ever made before, and put it on one record. And I'm gonna have Castro be on the most songs because he's my best friend, so he should be on the most songs.
mm,
So that was like a very deliberate choice. And then I did. So when that came out, I was like, oh, I'm gonna chill for a while. I'm not really gonna do anything. And then I just caught a bug. Barry started sending me beats. Disco Vietnam. Expert started sending me beats,
mm.
and then I just basically I had a lot of downtime because my son was younger. He was taking a lot of naps on the weekend.
Right.
I would have
Right.
like 2 hour blocks where it was just me in the house, and I
Mhm.
would put beats on. I was like, "Yo, can I make a song in 2 hours?" I bet I could. And so that became 96. And so when I did 96 and dropped that, probably maybe like 6 months after Future Former, like people were like, "Yo," and I was like, "Oh, cool, you guys, shit, I could do this. This is pretty fun."
Right.
So I did that record, and then I guess that would be that's probably one people might hold as the thing.
Mm.
Um, Midnight Suns is the biggest album I've ever done. Period. Just
Sure.
sales,
Yeah.
uh, products, distribution, like. And we didn't even get a lot of press. That was the craziest part. And we didn't even couldn't do any shows. It was COVID. So that
Right.
was my first time on Wax. Chong and I talk about it. Like it was a very different sound for his audience.
Oh yeah.
And for me, that was right on time. I was like, this is a breeze. So I think my audience was totally with it. I think his audience, outside of the packaging and design work, maybe they needed time to get around to it. But I think like a lot of the choices we made it stand out. And it was an album like I just kept seeing like over 6 to 8 months people just mentioning it. You know what I mean? I was like,
Right.
and by that point he and I moved on. But I saw that like just kind of stick like really slowly, which was fire. So I think with this one, yeah, I just never felt like I was that guy. Like I have to live up to, fucking Below the Heavens. I have to
Right. Right. Right.
things fall apart. It has to be that one. It needs to be whatever. Like or else people are gonna be mad at me. It's gotta be Section 80
Mm,
or To Pimp a Butterfly too.
mm.
This album could have just been 97 Mentality. It could have just been titled that. And that's cool. It could have been, I don't know. It could have been it could have been Future Former Rapper, The Revenge of the Future Former Rapper. It could have been that. I
Mm.
didn't really go into it with any expectations. I was just like, I'm in the mood to get busy. Again, people are sending me fire beats I'm reacting to. I'm gonna put them together, and that was pretty much it. But if you ask Castro and Small Pro, like there's landmark records for me would be for Small Pro. It's Bring Me the Head of Zilla Rocca, my 2008 mixtape with my wife on the cover. We weren't even dating yet, and then for Castro, it's the first Shadow Boxers record, The Slow Twilight,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
from like '09. So those they caught that at certain times of knowing me and then their lives. And like Smalls was like always walking through South Philly and playing Bring Me the Head at a certain time in his life. So that's like his
Mm,
album.
mm.
And then for Castro, Slow Twilight was like him looking at me finally in Philly and be like, oh, this is a guy that speaks my language now. Like we're gonna be friends. This dude.
Oh shit, that's awesome.
So that kind of
Yeah.
like cracked open he and I's like mutual language.
Yeah. No, because there was that definitely seemed like where you started to make make ill songs, but also just like talk about industry mechanics during the song.
Right.
Um, that's got a really intense like Bandcamp write up on it. Uh,
Yes.
it's really good.
Yeah, it's an intense record. It was a strange, alienating, like dark place in my life, and all I knew what to do. I was like really just in a lot of solitude. So it could basically it was like a self-imposed COVID almost, where like I was
Mhm.
just totally in my own world and still going to shows and going out, but like not feeling connected to anything. So that record back then that came out, like I said, '09.
Mhm.
It's and Jeff Weiss was a big part of that record, and Douglas Martins, aka Blurry Drones, he produced the whole thing. And so we linked up for the sequel, No Vacation for Murder. And so that was another. I mean, that did pretty well too at a certain time. But I think now it's like, I think now things have just lined up really well for a lot of artists, not just me. I think like we have a direct to consumer relationship that's really good. There's like a rabid, super niche base that you can hit quickly. You can interact with people directly, doing podcasts. People can hear you outside of records, you know,
Right.
IG Live. I just think it's a great time. It's the best time ever for artists. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear people crying about Spotify streams. Like, don't be on Spotify. Delete your account. Do other
Right.
stuff.
Right.
Like I don't want to hear it. And I don't know what deals those people are signing. Because my spot, when they were like, I got 71 cents and my song got played 850,000 times. I'm like, you signed a bad deal. Because if I got 850,000 plays, my checks would be nice. I promise you. Because I own my own music.
Right. Right.
I'm not like, oh, I'll get a 4% cut of that song. No, I get 100%. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. No, No Vacation for Murder, Do Not Undersell, has Geechee Suede and
Yes.
Rock Marciano on
Yeah.
it.
That was like right after Marsburg hit, we got him. And
Woo!
he took a minute to get the verse back. Shouts to Jazz from UN Gang.
Right.
But I was nervous. I was like, yo, I think this dude's gonna burn me. Like this is months. Like, what's good with this dude? And the day we got it back, I was like freaking out because I had loved him since Flip Mode. Like I was one of them people like with like the people that have like the scanners, like hoping they catch an alien one day, sitting, you know what I mean? Like an AV club type of, Stranger Things joint. That was
Right.
me with Rock Marcy for like 8 years. Like, is he out there? Has anybody seen him? Does anybody know him? And he'll pop up on like a Marco Polo album. I'm like, oh shit. And then 3 years
Yeah.
go by, he's known it, and then he'll pop up on like the P Brothers album. I was like, oh shit, he's out there, and then vanishes. So when Marsburg hit, and it was, again, that was my favorite album of the 2010s. I was like, man, we got to get him like now, period. So
Right.
it
Right.
was amazing. Like I really didn't need to get any more features after that, and I've been lucky enough to get quite a few other ones that are great, but that was that was pretty crazy. Shouts to Rock Mars.
No, I mean, and that was one of the things I was going to ask was you rapped with Open Mike Eagle, Woods, Rock Marciano. These are like three of my favorite MCs in the world, right?
Totally, mine too.
Uh, which, what characteristics have you found from people like that who have really taken off
Right.
and not compromised their art and really become primary people?
It's a long journey. Like we were doing shows with Mike Eagle. The All-Star weekend when Blake Griffin jumped over the car, we were playing a show in Phoenix with Mike Eagle in front of 30 people. We were out there. You know what I mean? Me and Castro with No Can Do and Mike. Then he comes to Philly and we're performing on a Thursday in front of 11 people. Like I seen Mike do it. Like drive those cars, drive 6 hours to make $90. Like do it from the ground level and build it one person at a time, one show at a time. So Woods, I didn't meet Woods till maybe like 2013, but I was aware of him from the Reavers and Super Crime Flight Brothers, but I didn't know that was Billy Woods. I just knew like this guy.
Right.
And then even when History Will Absolve Me hit, me and Castro were like, I don't get this. Like, why is everybody talking about this? This is weird. And then Prem kept being like, this is the best album ever.
No
And
kidding.
then after like 3-4 months, I think we were in New York or something clicked where he and I were like, okay, this is objectively great. But, he was probably 9 years deep into Backwoods probably. And the Supercron thing blew up in his face and the Reavers kind of hit, but didn't. And,
Right.
and I think that was his, History Will Absolve Me was going to be his last album. He's like, if it doesn't work, oh, well, I tried. So
Right.
that was his back against the wall. And, I mean, I just think we all get it because we were all there with each other at some point. You know what I mean? Like when Alchemist wasn't getting at people and Mike wasn't talking to LP on the phone every week. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
I could text Woods now about the Chicago Bears and I can DM Mike Eagle about the new issue of X-Men and it's all
Right.
good. You know what I mean? It's not like, damn, bro, you know what I'm saying though, man, you got that tour, you know what I mean? Wouldn't it, the kid's got a new album, you know what I mean? Why don't you why don't you slide me on over there? Why don't you give me LP's number? It ain't, we've
I
never
mean,
done that.
that really stands out with Woods and the stories I've heard of Woods, because when I talked to Def C, he was like, "Yeah, 7 years ago, I said I want to put out an album on Backwoods,"
Mm,
and he said, "Bet," and like he kept checking in with me about the album and being
mm,
patient and like letting me do my thing, and now he's like putting it out on Backwoods
right.
when, man, a lot of labels would just move on. A lot of labels would be like, yeah, I don't know. Like
Hmm.
we're gonna capitalize on what we did last year and do
Right.
more of that. But with Woods, putting out Prem, putting out Def C, putting out like people he grinded with in
Right.
a lot of spaces. So
And
that's
and you
that's
but you and again, he same way. He's paying attention to stuff. He's a quote unquote industry guy. Like
right.
that's that he has to think like I can't take a loss. Or if I am going to take a loss, it better be something I really love and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like I would always joke with Castro and Prem about like Woods is like, his whole motto backwards is like, don't get your hopes up. Oh yeah, haram. Yeah, that's great. Don't get your hopes up. Terror management, paraffin, brass, shrines. He's a great dude to have because he's like, yeah, I was gassed up like that probably, you know, 12 years ago. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like we're in a good space of knowing what's gonna hit for us, what to avoid, what to go all in on. Now they're playing with house money in terms of like, hitting a critical mass and they work for it. Like those dudes earned it, man.
So it sounds like a common trait would be like practicality in the
Straight
sense of
up.
just like being able to just walk in and do the job. Like, and
100%.
yeah, and a lot of people live in a different space where other things are distracting them from
Right.
job. Um, you know,
And you know what's
so
cool about Mike and Woods? And there was someone else you originally asked me for, so I apologize for forgetting
oh, it was Rock, but you seem
Rock
to have
Marcy. Yeah.
had a
Even Rock, I don't know him, but all three of those guys have gotten better. You know what I mean? It's not like, well, we're still giving them a pass because they really wowed me 4 albums ago. You know what I
right,
mean? Like
right,
it is not that. Every time Mike comes out, he's adding something on, and you're like, oh, he's doing this now. Every time Woods comes out, whether by himself or Arm& Hammer, you're like, oh, he's incorporating singers. He's doing more hooks. Now he's singing and shit. Like he wasn't doing this on Today I Wrote Nothing or something. You know what I mean? So it's like they keep adding on to their game, and I think that's inspiring because not a lot of people hit that age where it's like it's muscle memory. Oh, I could do this. I was really dope when I was 28. I'm 38. I could just do it. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, no, and shout out to Mike Eagle. In my opinion, you have the second best comic book rap song of all time, Mark
Okay.
Spector, and he's number one with the legendary Iron Hood.
Okay.
Uh, I love the legendary Iron Hood,
That's a great joint.
uh, and it was one of
Shouts to
those
Mike.
songs I sent to nerds and then had to explain it. Like, no, man, this is about Juggernaut. Like, you've got to really listen to this shit, man.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Dude,
Marco
it's
Kane.
about Juggernaut, and he's just like
Dang.
talking about his brother and how he picks on him, and
Oh,
it's fucking dude.
that's genius. I never
Mike
thought of
Eagle,
that.
Mike Eagle is the man.
Dude,
Uh,
Castro said the new Juggernaut comic. I've been sleeping on it. I should check it out. I haven't got to it yet, but he said it's great.
I gotta check it. I've always been a Juggernaut fan. I didn't know. I've been a lot of Red Sonja lately. Into it.
Oof. I just started Sherlock Holmes versus Harry Houdini.
Oh wow, the dynamite. It's got to be dynamite.
Yeah, it's like I think it's on. I just ran through like a bunch of just free borrowed joints on the
They're
Comixology app. I
they're
was like, let me
fun as
check these
shit.
out. Yeah, because I'm
Dynamite's fun
X-Men
as
out
shit.
now like all the time and spend all my money on all the X-Men titles. I was like, let me dip my toe. I was doing some Thor joints, some
Mhm.
Winter Soldier joints again. Yeah, but the Houdini versus Sherlock Holmes, it's like who could be more pompous and arrogant? And they just take turns. It's great.
That is fantastic. No, so yeah, so strategic wise, rollout
Mhm.
wise, and it's another reason I was excited to talk to you because back in the day, I had a clear like understanding of what my MVP award, yearly MVP award meant,
Okay.
right? So
And last year was a Lucid, right?
it was elusive.
Yes.
Um, and it used to be basically who was like everywhere and made their name. So basically, it wasn't the best player on the best team, it was the leap into the next level, right?
Right.
So if my MVP award was given, the format for the NBA would go to Devin Booker, right?
Hell yeah.
Uh,
I'll go
because
Chris Paul. I'll go Chris Paul.
fair. Uh, but yeah, but I think I'm going to have to adjust that now because everyone's prolific now.
Yes.
Everyone's locked in their houses.
Right.
Everyone's just like banging out 5, 6, 7 projects.
Yeah.
But some of them are just like rapping on beats, just like
Right.
boom, 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 serving it out there. Um, and it's not being prolific isn't what it was, and
No.
it isn't.
It's definitely not. It's I've thought about it a lot. Like going into this year, I thought about being super prolific and doing like a bunch of 7-song EPs. So Vegas Vic really originally was just going to be a bunch of EPs. It wasn't going to be an album.
Oh,
Um, and Barry was always saying to me, he's like, "Yo, you're a prolific artist. Like, lean into that." And I was like, "True." However, just because I make stuff in bunches a lot, and me and my friends are always working, like I still want to have a complete thought. Like I'm not interested in just doing that.
right.
It was exciting as an idea. And that was even a time where I thought about doing like a series, kind of like, like the currency joints. What are they
Oh
called?
yeah, 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 yeah.
What's it
Pilot
called?
talk. Pilot
Pilot
talk.
Talk, right? So I was
Yeah.
even thinking about doing 96 mentality, 97 mentality, 98 mentality. And then, but then I was just kind of like, you know what? I just want to do I always want to just keep moving in places that are true to what I'd like, but also something fresh. And I felt like if I did a bunch of EPs, I already put out a bunch of EPs years ago. People weren't checking for them as heavy, but I already did that. And I was like, wait a second, I did that stuff in
Right.
2011. And
Yeah.
then I was like, I really doing a bunch of series. I feel like even for me as a currency fan, like Pilot Talk 1 to me is still the best. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So
Yep.
2 and 3 have moments here and there, but I'm like, nah, but they could have been something else. And I would have not judged them against Michael Knight, you know what I mean? Or like shit like that, like bangers on the
Michael
first
Knight.
one. You know what I mean?
I
So
think Michael Knight's on the second one though.
is it whatever
I think
the
it is.
first what's the one that has like the breakfast joint? Is that one or
Oh,
two?
that's one. Yeah,
That's
that's what
one.
most def on that.
Yeah,
Uh,
but because it's the what's the name, the hook that they use like 10 times. You're the
yup.
best around.
So Michael Knight.
Michael Knight, Michael
Pilot
Knight,
Talk 2.
Michael.
I was right.
Okay, it's on 2. You're right.
So
Whatever.
2 is great. Yes.
Two's
But
great.
it is like Pilot Talk is like a great celebration of the spirit of being an independent artist. It's where he
Correct.
starts like declaring that shit. Like, I'm independent. I don't need a fucking label. I'm just gonna rap about weed and video games, and it's gonna be better than your shit.
And that was Dame. Dame Dash was telling him all that, and then he then turned around and signed to Warner Brothers. And Dame was like, "Don't do that," and he did it, and whatever. Shouts to I love those guys. And I love Currency.
He's Ski Beats underrated, amazing.
Unbelievable,
Uh,
unbelievable ski beats.
but no, it's interesting to think about how it's evolved because like you were saying, you think about rollouts and you think about how people have positioned themselves
Yeah.
throughout the year. Strategic rollout wise, who do you think is doing the best so far in 2021?
Strategic rollouts. That's a great question. Hmm. I gotta think of who. I do like. I like I'm just thinking of him because he's relatively new, in terms of like his album dropping. I liked how Evidence rolled his album out, where it was kind of like, "Yo, come and check it out." It wasn't like in your face.
Right, right,
You know what I
right.
mean? And he just had like and I just been seeing like official people keep talking about it. And he's like the puzzle. He was using like the puzzle emoji. You know what I mean? Like the color
Yeah,
scheme is all orange. Like everything is like solid in
yeah,
terms of how he did it. And it's just again, it's just like Evidence rhyming in the crib. Like that's the record. It's nothing like splashy. But how he did it was like very meaningful and precise. I really enjoyed that. I'm trying to think who else I really like. I like Moneybagg Yo. I like his rollout.
Oh, he's been doing it.
He has been. So he's put out the singles, then he did the album, and then he has like the artwork that kind of is like it's like a GIF or something.
Yep.
And then he's been doing like award shows, TV shows with singles off the album, and then that's like cracking off. And then his Instagram is like him showing like his jewelry and ill sneakers and being on jets, but then still talking about I'm here because my album is number one. The
Right.
album is not the feature on the Meg The Stallion song. It's the
Right.
album. And
Mhm.
then put a new single out, Rookie of the Year, which is crazy. Um, but it sounds like it's in the vein of that record still. So
Yeah.
I really like what he's been doing. It's been, and he's not like, okay, the album was out 3 months later. Here's another one. Here's a 27 song version, or here's, he keeps driving it back to that record.
But he sounds great with Megan the Stallion, by the way.
Right. Yes.
It's one of the reasons I really like her is because beyond all of whatever attention you want to say, she loves to rap. Like
Yes.
when she gets on Maxo Cream shit, it's amazing.
Mm.
When she gets on Moneybagg Yo shit, it's amazing. She just loves it. She loves to rap, and
Totally.
Moneybagg loves to rap, and it just makes sense. It was
Yes. I love it, dude.
the rollout that I still think I'm learning from is Sharif. Like
Oh, that's masterful. Me and Jeff Weiss were texting about that today, actually.
he dropped his shit in like October,
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Like that's fucking perfect.
It's
That's a
genius.
winter album, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
no question. Gandhi Loves Children winter album, and it burned all the way through. And I think partially he started featuring everywhere. He was just like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna
Yep.
rap about my shit." But he knows all the outlets,
Yes.
so he knew everybody he wanted to fuck with.
100%.
He knew all
Him.
the podcasts. He knew
Yeah.
all the fucking. He was like, "I'm getting situated. I'm everywhere."
Yeah. Him, and then Roper stock was exploding at the same time between like
With the
YL
Drew,
stuff, Droog
Drew place,
stuff. You know what I mean? Like he's hitting on its own. But again, the genius of it was like we bring it all back to this one thing that we did. And then the other rollout I love too was Stove God Cooks, where it's like
ooh, it's good.
one album at the beginning of 2020. That's it. You're gonna hear me on a bunch of other people's joints. Busta's kind of involved because it's on the conglomerate, and I think Busta's the one guiding it to be like everything you do is gonna matter, but
Right,
the talking point is reasonable drought. And then as the year went on, like okay, we'll do CDs and vinyl and people catching on and quoting his stuff, and
yep.
he's retweeted me a bunch of times just quoting him, not even adding him. So he's paying attention. And
Mhm.
then now he has like a single with, French Montana, but then he's on the Rosenberg record. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So
and he
he's,
killed it on Ransom. There was a crime scenes thing. He was on Ransom.
yes, on the Boldy record, Real Bad
Yep.
Boldy, he
Yeah,
crushes that.
yeah, yeah.
So he's just doing what people used to do. Like they used to put a record out, people liked it, and then they just did a bunch of features on real shit, not like, okay, my album's out. I'm gonna rap with this dude down the street no one's ever heard about. It doesn't really do much for you. So it's like
Right,
high level shit that he's on, and then Stealing the Show and Jose Canseco, West Side Gun. But that's
right,
the only
right.
song I even play for that fuck. I don't even play that record. I played a Jose
I'm with you.
Canseco joint.
Yep.
So yeah, the way he did that was remarkable. And then Boldy last year, like it was a lot of music, but like Manger on McNichols is very separate. Like that is like a pristine piece.
Sure, sure.
And then him and
Yeah.
Alchemist kept putting the album out again with better art and then a couple new songs. And then he did like kind of like the Versace. It's basically a Dad Piff mixtape. Here you go. Here's some shit. And then the Real Bad Boldy one, like I love that clothing line anyway, Real Bad Man. So like
Mm,
him just spazzing on banging rap beats, which he hasn't really done.
right.
And then they put like Mayhem Loren on there, a couple other guys. And what's the ill rollout with like the merch and the cover, it was tied into like, gear.
Right.
And I just liked I wish he would have spread it out, but then again, like I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me go back to like I was playing Real Bad Man Real Bad Boldy a couple weeks back. I'm like, I need to sit with that more because I was sitting with Manger, and then I was playing Price of Tea in China, and
Yep. No, it's I think Real Bad Boldy is what locked in the honorable mention for me. I had been debating him as MVP, uh, and Real Bad Boldy was like, I've never even heard of
mhm.
these people producing,
Me neither.
like,
This shit is
and
hot.
I was just like, damn, Boldy's got a good ear,
He really
like,
does.
and that's like a big thing, you know.
And he's
It's
delivering. That's not like a cash grab where he's like, all right, here's 10 verses, give me some money.
yeah, give me free
He's
shoes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
literally, he was as locked in on that as he was anything else.
No, it's and he yeah. So I understand when people are like, it's always the same with Boldy. He's always delivering in the same tone.
Right.
He's always living this horrifying life.
Right.
But but
That's
he's
my life.
he's just one of those people who doesn't fail. You know,
No.
if you put him on, he just does it. He does what you want him to do.
He's like Tobias Harris. He's a bucket getter, bro. He's gonna get
Yeah,
buckets. Okay.
yep,
He may not get 50, but worst case scenario, he's getting 16 points tonight. Like he's gonna score.
yep. Yeah. No, it's great. And I was gonna do some. Oh, let's go to some bars.
Oh, here we go.
Celebrate the
That's what I live
Vegas
for.
Vic
People quoting my shit.
bars.
I will
Um,
say, like when 96 Mentality hit, that was like the first time like I put out an album where like people were quoting it that day on Twitter, and I was like, oh shit. Oh,
no, that's. I mean,
the best.
96 Mentality is a special record. I think it's one of those albums where it's got a perfect album title for you, right?
Mm.
And it's got a perfect cover for
Shouts,
you.
yeah, shouts to Alexander Richter, man. He's a genius, dude. Shouts to him
That
and
was
Backwoods.
there's something about it that's just yeah, it just stands out. It's just a crystallization of what it's supposed to be.
Thanks, man.
I think the first song that when I heard Vamoose, I felt
Mm.
very called out. Um,
Okay.
I felt very called out in the whole
Oh,
like,
shit, you feel
you know,
triggered.
you don't see your friends after you start a family, and I'm like,
Yep.
we don't talk about this. Why are we not? Why are we talk? Let's not talk about this because it's very true.
Yeah.
Half the people at my wedding I never see.
Yep.
Uh, Vamoose is one of those brutal truth songs.
You're right.
Uh, yeah, no, I'm still going because rappers don't retire. We fall off. We get jobs. We're uninspired. We leave it off our resume and try to get hired. Digging through some CDRs, like I used to spit fire.
That's it.
Um, it's cold blooded, but it's true. You know.
100%. Like it's I, that's really I don't know how you could stop rapping. Like I don't get it. You know what I mean? I only know one rapper who retired and stayed retired. Shouts my man Dave Ghetto. Dave Ghetto is not coming back to rap. I've tried. He's not doing it. He started making beats. They're crazy. He's got a family. But like I've seen other dudes that just again were like just really good when they were younger and they just kind of coasted on that. And then all of a sudden they're like 34 and you're like, bro, that's the 10, 12-year-old style. You're getting by off that like reps from high school or something. That's not even real. Um, and then, or they, like someone said, I saw someone posted on Twitter. It might have been Reef. Shouts to Reef, the Lost Cause. It was like art and music is the only thing to be like your 17-year career where you're trying to make it and sleeping on floors and basically like inside Llewyn Davis. That
Right,
whole
right.
thing becomes like a hobby on the resume. My hobby was playing acoustic guitar. That was my hobby. Now I'm a coder or whatever the
Right.
fuck it is. You know what I mean? Now
Yeah.
I'm a Freemason. You know what I mean?
No, it's, and I was thinking about this the other day. I saved this for this discussion because I was hanging out with like hanging with my wife's family. Uh, maybe a cousin 3 times removed from. I don't know what these people. I don't know any of that stuff. But a good kid, 16 years old, and he's like talking his shit, right? He's like,
Mm.
you know what? I might be a Navy SEAL. I might be a dancer. I might be, he's just like throwing the shit out there, because he's like, I've never done any of it. I might be great at it, it's
Yeah,
kind of,
exactly.
uh, um, and he's like, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm looking at him like, damn, I never had this.
Mm.
Like, before I could write, I was dictating stories to my mom.
Shit.
Always wanted to be a writer. It was
Mm.
always it. What do you want to do when you grow up? Right. Period.
Damn.
And like, it was never anything else. So I realized, I'm like, fuck, dude. I had a dream. Like, it
Yeah.
was, I wasn't good at it. I knew I sucked at it, and I had
Right.
to get better. But I knew what I had to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
I always was like, all right, I just keep working at this shit. You know,
Right. Right.
if I'm studying about this shit. You know, I started reading plays to get better at dialogue. You know, I started like targeting shit and getting better. Um, and he doesn't have that. He's been drifting. You know,
Mm.
and there's a lot of people like that. And so you grow up with a dream. You know what you want to do, but no one's there to help you harness that in a proper direction,
Right.
because most people don't fucking grow up with dreams.
Mm.
Most people just kind of end up where they end up.
True.
So it's not like you have a guide to what you do. You know, you just end up, you know,
Yeah.
wherever.
1,000,000% accurate. Yeah. No one told me shit about rap. I was in my room figuring it out. You know what I mean? Like, I lucked out having friends that taught me production, but they weren't telling me how to rap. And then the feedback I was getting about rap was like, why do you sound like that? Like, you sound so South Philly. Like, yo, get rid of that accent, or like, why do you try to go over people's heads, or like, why aren't you doing this, or like, why don't you make songs? Like, it was always like, why don't you do XYZ, depending on who I was in the room with, you know what I mean?
Right.
For a long time, and so I understand, like, why we were talking about Asher Roth and shit like that. Imagine if people saying it to me invested like $800,000 into me. You know what I mean? You're like, oh fuck. Maybe it should. Yeah, maybe I should rap like Ludacris on this song, and then maybe I should, rap like fucking Key Glock on this joint.
Or just
Um,
like make a beer pong anthem or something that just like
like,
goes
it sh-
viral.
yeah, like, I really thought I was gonna be a full time touring artist. My
Right.
dream was always to be like hieroglyphics. Like, we're gonna have our own building, and we're all gonna be there every day. And the first floor is gonna be the studio. Second floor is gonna be like the lounge. Third floor is gonna be like a video spot, shit like that. Like, I thought we were
Yep.
gonna have like a compound, and that was like my thing. But it
Awesome.
was it's been like a Sisyphean, is that the word?
I've
Sisyph
I've never heard it pluralized in this way.
Sisyphean, a
Let's do it.
Sisyphean path,
Let's ride.
where a lot of it has just been, rolling shit up the hill and it falls back down on you. So, um, yeah, like, to still be doing it. I mean, I started when I was 17. I'll be 39 this year, so 22 years, just trying. Like, but yeah, like, I felt like you when I was young, where I was always like writing stories, and then but I was always like memorizing songs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
fucking Adam Ant, Madonna. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, knowing it, and then memorizing, like, Nothing But a G Thing, Humpty Dance, Young MC, like, Bust a Move. I knew all the words of that shit. So,
Yep.
yeah, they all kind of overlap. But if some people just look at, some hobby shit, like,
Right.
I do this for fun, when people are around, we get a laugh out of it. That's cool. You know what I mean? But I was like,
I
I suck at this, and yet I keep doing it.
I did know one guy who had made a rap song and like would invite when pretty ladies were over, he would happen to put it on.
Oh, whoops. It's crazy how
Yeah.
that press play. Oh, that's weird.
Oh, no, that's actually me. It was it
Shit.
was great. No one ever got sick of that. Um, but yeah, no, there's it, and you can tell like there's Vegas Vic is full of songs that are just different, man. Like $5 God is a really interesting song,
Mm,
really interesting opener. Us
yeah.
millennials will never be Christians, only place our faith in statistics. We took God and remixed it. Uh, man, like to kick the album off and just be like, "Here I come, organized religion." It's like, and then I'm moving on. I'm not spending the whole album on organized religion.
Nah, no, that's funny. It was that song. Barry decided he was like, "We're opening with $5 God." I'm like, "No, the album opener, as written and intended, is Merv Griffin Enterprises." And
Ooh,
he's like, "No, it's $5 God because it's subversive,
it
and
really
we're gonna
is.
subvert first." And I was like, "Fuck it, you win." So w- to me, like that was a clear album cut. And shouts to the expert. That beat was the shit, and still is.
Mhm.
And my the title, my wife's friend said that to me. We were talking, and she said something to that. She's like, "Oh, well, no one wants to worship a $5 God." And I
Right.
was like, "Let me write this down. No one wants to worship a $5 God." And so I
That's
was
great.
like, "That's crazy." And then so when I made the song, I was like, "What am I gonna call it?" I had a different title
Mm,
because I don't really say it a lot. And like there's the hook. I don't say that shit in the hook. So
right.
I was sitting with a different title, and I was like, "No, it looked real crazy on track listing if it said $5 God." Because I was like, I would want to play a song called $5 God. Like, what the
Right.
fuck is
Right.
that about?
That's
So
fun as
I
shit.
did
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And then when the song was done, it only had two hooks and it was it. And I was like, me and Chong had wrapped up a lot of our shit. And I was like, yo, you should do cuts on this. Like, it should be expanded and you should cut up God part three, like saying God. And then so then I kind of like
Mm,
threw it all together. So that line that's one of my favorite lines, was saying like, we think the universe and the secret is going to fix it. We took God and remixed it. And
yep.
so it's kind of tied into me and Alaska's record Nihilist Millennial, which
Right.
he rapped on. But it's like this, it's a thing now of like, when I hear people say like, the universe wants to see me succeed, it's the universe. Pay attention to the universe. I was like, everything you're saying, if you just put God in there, you're religious.
Right. Right.
It's the same fucking idea that
Yeah.
something you don't know outside of Earth is navigating your life and putting things in there you want. It's the same shit, you know.
Right.
So if you want to call it the secret, or like, the vision board,
Right.
it's just a grift to be like, you don't need to go to church, buy this book and then talk about the universe, and that's cool. So, as like I went to Catholic school for 12 years. I was an altar boy, right? That's uh, that's all I knew for most of my life.
Right.
And when I stopped going, and then I just didn't do it for a long time. And then when I was like 28, that's when I started going to meditation classes and practicing Buddhism. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So it's a whole different frame of mind,
Yep.
where you're not looking at something as like omnipotent. You're like, I am in charge of my own mind, and my job is to contemplate that and then think, how do I help other people?
Yep.
So thinking about it like that, and then writing a song like $5 God, is a way of saying like, we think we're so slick and smart because we have all this tech, all this statistical everything, and we are. Our lives are dope. No one wants to say it. Our lives are fucking great, man.
Right.
They're really. It was a lot worse in 1973. The cars were worse. The food was worse. Right.
Right.
Everything was worse.
Yeah.
Entertainment was trash, except for movies. Right. But to say like, we're so good, but we have no connection to anything outside of ourselves, that's bad.
Right.
So
Right.
you can't say like, "Oh, me and the universe talked last night and it helped me forgive someone who bumped into me and made me upset." The universe doesn't teach you fucking forgiveness, bro. It doesn't.
No.
The secret is about getting shit. It's about material gain. It's not really about advancing or growing. It's about, how do I get a fucking raise? The secret. You know what I mean? You're like,
Yeah.
speak it into the universe. It's me really critiquing that idea, not so
Mhm.
much like organized religion's trash. It, like, me and Blueprint were talking, he was like, yo, I started going back to church. You can't be mad when you leave church, bro. You can't be
Straight up.
upset.
Yep.
And I was like, you're right. When I meditate and I'm done, I'm not mad. That's the best shit. I might be mad 15 minutes later if my neighbor is, being a pain in my ass, but that's separate. So it's like,
Yep.
that song's in there at the beginning just to put it out there like you said, and then just slam the door on it.
So the weirdest part about the organized religion experience for me was growing up Jewish in Maine. I went to a Reformed synagogue, and every week after the service, kick-ass dessert party, right?
Mhm.
And in the other side of the deal, we go there, and I'd walk around and tell all the grown-ups I didn't believe in God all the time,
Jesus.
and nobody gave a fuck. Nobody gave a
Good.
fuck at all because being Jewish is an ethnicity. They were like,
Mm.
"You're here. It's too bad," you know. Um, and they actually had like a class on what it was to be Jewish. And I confronted the rabbi. I was like, "Even if I don't believe this shit, it doesn't change." He's like, "No, you'd have to convert to
Your
something else."
mother's Jewish.
And I'd be like, "Damn, so it's I could always go to synagogue and enjoy it because it was the communal energy of
Right.
people. Like we help each other move and shit. Like, you
Yes.
know,
You
that's
check in on each other.
yeah,
Someone in the church's niece is single, you're single. They're gonna hook you up.
right.
It's a good look.
It's good to have these people in different generations and
100%.
talk to people and kick it with people.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, no, it's so yeah, but there's great Philly energy in this one. I quoted Yiddish pimps. The cashier said, "No charge here. You're a legend."
That's a good
It's
one.
such a great Zilla line. The I was gonna say between the new production names and the old ones,
Mhm.
Disco Vietnam is huge on this. He's kind of
Yes.
the guy on this.
He's the guy.
And what did you two want Vegas Vic to sound like?
We well he kind of broke through on 96 where he did a bunch of beats on there. And then he did Favors or Bad News with Arm& Hammer on Future Former Rapper. So in between those two records, he probably sent me like I don't know, 30 beats. And I picked a couple and put them on 96 and I was like these are my favorite. Um and then in between then, he was making even more beats every day all the time and sending me snippets on IG and then texting me, email me. I'm like, God damn, bro, there's a lot.
Right,
Like, I want to rap on all this shit. Like, I can't. And so when I started putting the record together, I was like, okay, actually, this is the best one. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take this one, this one, this one. And then I was like making it and I was like, yo, after a while, I was like, you know what, man? It, it was interesting, like watching Wrecking Crew. Like, it used to be like me and Castro.
yep,
I would be in the studio with him every day. He'd be in my spot. We would know every song we're doing, every show. We were like locked in. And then
mhm,
once I got my own crib and started a family, I couldn't have him around anymore. So he started going to Steel Tip Dove's crib, I Alive's crib. Then him and Prem started doing shit to where like I'm not hearing what he's doing as much until it's like really crystallized, right?
right,
So with this record, I was like, before this, I was like, I'm in charge of my records. I'm me.
mhm,
I'm the boss, right?
yep,
And working with Small Pro, with Career Crooks, like he's a part of that process. Working with
right,
Chong, he's a part of that. Me and Ray West, they're a part of that. But when it's me, I'm like, I get to be a control freak. I love it. Right.
right,
So with this one, I was like, you know what? I can't remember honestly if it was when it was, but I remember just saying to him, like, I need to open this up. Like it can't just be me in my basement all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I trust you. We've been friends for 10 years. I go to him in general for advice. He comes to me for advice with random shit.
right,
We disagree with stuff. He says things that I think are challenging and interesting sometimes. Um, and whenever I step to him, he was like, "You want to be the executive producer?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What does that mean?" And I was like, "Just be in charge of what you think is best and tell me. Just say like, we should do this. We should change this." Because what he's really good at is Barry doesn't give a fuck how you feel,
right,
and not in a shrewd way. He's like a romantic. He's a sentimental guy. But when it comes to music, he doesn't fuck around. He's like, whatever is the best course of action for the song, we should do it. What's the best course of action for the record? We should do it. And you're gonna do it this way because I think it's the best way to do it. And I have to sit back and be like, okay, because I like I'm used to being the producer when I'm working with other people too, which I love. Like, hey, let's guide it together. I think this is a good idea. But like producing myself, I have no one to sound things off of. So, you know, having Barry in the mix, was great because he could be like, let's actually keep the third take of that song.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not the first two. They're great, but let's keep the third one. Actually do that hook differently. No one's telling me that when I'm here by myself. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
my son's not telling me. In my mind, I'm like, everything's good. Everything I'm doing is just really good. And he's the one to be like, nah. Or like, these songs are good, but we're going to cut them. They don't fit. I'm like, they're great. Nah, they don't fit.
That's the
Okay.
hardest shit to do. When you've done something you're really proud of,
Yeah.
you got to cut that off. Man, it's hard.
Yeah. So he was excited to do it, but kind of cautious at first. And then, but then he suggested his brother, Kenny Schwartz, should mix and master the record.
Mhm.
And I was like, And he was like, here's my vision. Boldy James. We keep talking about Boldy. He was like, Boldy, your voice should be in the front, all the way in the front of the record, not mixed the same level as the beat, not mixed behind. You should be all the way in the front. You should borrow my microphone. Come get my mic. Your mic sucks. I'm like, yeah, my mic is 15 years old. True. So I liked his mic so much, I ended up buying it myself. Now I use it.
Right.
So he was like, come get my microphone. Do it this way. Let's try this. You know what I mean? Like, very definitive, simple ideas that I would never have considered. You know what I mean? This microphone's expensive as shit. I would never buy this mic if I didn't have
Right.
access to it from him. So, and then at the same time, he was doing the Rosenberg record.
Right.
So he's like, yo, check out this Rock Marcy verse. Check out this Ghostface verse. You know what I mean? Like, so he was cracking off at the same time. And then his brother was mixing mastering that record. And I was just happy. I was like, look at these guys, man. This is amazing.
Everybody's winning. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was watching them. I'm hearing about it all, from the grapevine and learning about that record as it's going on. And then they're excited about my shit. You know what I mean? They're just like, dude, I can't wait. What day is it coming out? When's the release date? Yo, da, da, da. Like, they're amped for me, which is crazy. So it's been interesting to kind of open it up. You know what I mean? And honestly, that's something we got from Scorsese, bro. Like, honestly, like, he really was great at opening up to anybody he thought knew more than him and could advance him. And so I felt like Barry could do that for me for this record. And I was like, it's time to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I've done it already with all my other friends and it's great. I love it. Even if we butt heads, I still love it. So I want to do it with someone new. And he was able to pull it off.
That's awesome. Yeah. I had down true or false, Vegas Vic sounds like what Raekwon wanted a mobilarity to sound like.
I say false, man. I think Raekwon, I think it sounds exactly what he wanted to sound like. I think he thinks that's a win. I think to him it's a thumbs up.
I think he wanted something bigger and something like more lush, but the Trackmaster stuff was such
the like Infinite Architect stuff.
Fake gold. It was such like knockoff. It was rough.
Yeah, it's like you take the gold chain off and you got a green ring around your neck. That's the beats he got.
That's the Immobilarity production. Yeah, no question. So yeah, it was it. And speaking of people that really showed up and showed out on Vegas Vic, right? You talked about it in Call Out Culture with the prem rockness of the set, right? Going from his ending verse to his opening verse. Which I mean, like the Veriter song where it's
Vetiver,
Vetiver, where it's like, being cool and like hitting on somebody in the song, and I'm like, yeah, you gotta give the end to Prem on that,
right?
Yeah,
that's built after Kame. So Alex goes first. He's Raekwon.
Right.
I go second as Kappa. And then I told Prem, I'm like, yo, you got to be Ghostface. You got to go like 40 bars and close it out and be as charming as possible. And he nailed it. And it's funny because Alaska heard it and he was like, Alex is doing some Andre 3000 shit. He's like super charming and like pleasant and smiling and shit. And I was like, he is. You know what I mean? While still being dangerous and scuzzy. You know what I mean? That's Alex.
No,
Shouts to Alex.
I love him. It's interesting to think about not only like, oh my God, Disco Vietnam is like really grown into this amazing force, but also this is the year of Prem Rock. He is just, everywhere destroying verses. He's on another level. And the question really was, how did Shrapnel change Prem Rock?
So I said it on our show, but I said it to him first many moons ago, where I'm like, this is New York out of you. Like this is you being a New York resident. Whereas I think all his other records were like very uh like like the Toronto side of the Fresh Kills records is very Toronto. And I love Toronto. Like I would move there. It's
Mhm.
incredible. It's very clean. Everyone's educated and pretty. A lot of ill culture. A lot of great places to eat and chill. It's very safe. You know what I mean?
Right,
That's the feeling. I'm sure there's crime and danger, but
right,
you feel safe. And so I think when Prem was doing those records with Kills, they were like safe in a good way because Kills is like a master producer, engineer, performer, and he's
right.
like locked in on what he does. And I think I was used to hearing a lot of those records because he was doing those, and then being around him a lot and getting to know him over the years, like he's a person I just always really loved because he was like the most generous, kind person I'd met that I didn't know when I first met him. Like he brought
Right.
me up for a show and like fed us like turkey and pasta at Willie Green's crib. I didn't know Willie Green. I didn't know him. I think it was
Right.
like me, him, Brzezowski, Mo Nichols. I forget who else. Um, but he didn't know us at all, and he was like such. They were so kind. And so I did a song for him on Mark's Wild Years, and Woods rapped over it, and that's how I met Woods. And
Yep.
then watching Prem then hit Shrapnel, like it's a lot of Castro because Castro keeps us weird.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like Prem with Kills was very, like I said, like very pristine and shining, like emeralds to me. And then
Right.
on my end, as I've gotten older, my life has gotten very stabilized. My music's gotten simpler. Where when I was younger, it was very daring. We were wearing fucking different outfits at shows,
Right.
putting weird movies on the screen behind us and shit, just going for it. Whereas now I'm like, I'm totally settled in who I am. No one can tell me shit. And I'm good. Like my life is really set. So
Mhm.
my music has really gotten the way I write it is very simple. It's
Right.
very direct. Castro, when I met him, he was doing more simple shit. And as he's gotten older, he's gotten more radical and more exploratory. So he brings that. So if Shrapnel was just as the original plan, Prem writes to Elucid Beats over here,
Right.
Castro writes to Elucid Beats, I don't even know if they come out. You know what I mean? Like
That's
they would
fair.
just be like sprinkled shit on random stuff.
Right.
I think Castro and Prem, I think it pushed Prem into places he wouldn't have gone on his own. And I think Castro was smart enough and humble enough to be like, this dude's really tapping into some shit. I gotta let him take the ball and run up the middle 40 yards. You know what I mean? But then I'm gonna do the crazy hook. I'm gonna come up with the titles. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Ghostface Targaryen is a Castro song title.
No
Like I know
question. No
Castro's
question. Yeah.
aesthetics when it comes to titling shit. He's fucking great at that. So I
Right.
think coming off of that, and speaking to someone who's done a lot of partnership records, like me and Castro do records together, me and Smalls, whoever. When you do that, you're like, whoa, I just learned all this shit from this person. I learned how to write different. I learned how to maybe use my voice differently on stage. This is like a whole. So now you come back to it being like, oh fuck, now I can take all those things and then put it on just something for me over here. And I think with Prem, it was like with Low Bearing Crow's Feet, it's like it's a New York record at times. It's like a tumbleweed, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Dust Bowl record at times.
Yep.
It's
Prairie
like,
Bird.
yeah, it's like down and dirty, like New Orleans, Bourbon Street, but like the shitty parts, like off the beaten path. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and it's very what I really respect about him, loved about him from the beginning is like I like that he was well read and never hid from that. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like there's the same way like we'll put out a bunch of basketball shit and songs and fucking superheroes and all that. He's
Right.
like he makes you feel like, "Oh, I should have read that book and I never did." You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm an asshole. I should have read that. And he's like, "Oh, yeah." You know, like we were on tour together. He had like battered paperbacks in his pocket on the plane. You know, like not watching a movie, like pulling out the old battered, like people used to do. People used to do that. People just carry books with them all the time. You know what I
No,
mean?
I
Like,
yeah, I got in trouble for it in the army. I always put them in my BDU pocket.
yeah,
They were
right.
like, your pocket isn't flat. And I'm like, I got Machiavelli in my pocket. That's what it is.
Exactly. You know what I mean? You're like Mickey Spillane or some shit. Like he's
Right.
got him in the
Yeah, I love
pocket.
it.
So I think Prem, and then Prem also, um, I think he talked about it, with us and other people, just not being a super prolific solo dude, but when it's time for him to do those records, like they're coming out. You know what I mean? It's not going to be like a
Right.
6 year, like I don't know what to do.
No, no, no.
I
Yeah.
made the album 3 times and scrapped it. No, that shit's dropping, bro. You know what I
Right.
mean? He can hunker down. He has that discipline about him where whenever he's working on it, it's going to be an end point and it's going to be released.
So yeah, it seems like, you know, as thematic as Castro is, he was able to walk in and say, "I got this idea. I got the hook for it. I'll lead off the song." He leads off a lot of the songs
Right.
on Shrapnel, and he was able to be like, "Boom, flame this verse," and then be like, "You got this now."
Correct.
And Castro is a very forceful personality and believes in prep rock
Hmm.
in a big way. So I think, yeah, that must have been a really interesting thing, like for him to develop. Yeah,
Definitely.
good deal. No, I'm into that. Go back to the bars. Good. My favorite bar on the album is, and this is where you and me align on this fucking crime fiction, Mister In Between, smoking
Yes.
a cigarette.
Yes,
Here,
Mr. In Between is the best shit.
the my man's chick was stabbed right in front of her crib. The long knife missed her heart by an inch. He tried to be a good guy. He dipped. He couldn't see her walk around forever with a permanent limp.
True story.
10 deep to 6 packs.
Yes.
Um, there's an interesting part of your writing when you talk about, you're talking about interactions with the cashier. You're talking about the people who are digging through CDRs, talking about their failed dreams. You're talking about, like, I was explaining this white bar to my wife, and I'm like, there's like reverberating tragedy from that bar, right?
Mm,
That guy may have lost the love that could have been there. You know what I mean?
right.
And she's obviously been through a lot too. Like
Right.
there's like all these different angles to look at it from. And on a bigger level, it's about what Vegas Vic is about, which is, you know, did you really bet on yourself?
Mm,
Did you really put yourself where you wanted to be?
mm.
Because if you didn't, you're gonna have a lot of time to think about
Yes. That's 1,000% true, bro. Like I, I'm the only person I know like me in my circle of where I grew up. I didn't know any artists. No one had any interest beyond getting money. You know what I mean? And not getting money like moving bricks. Like I'm
it.
gonna
Mhm.
work 80 hours a week and live with my mother till I'm 28 and pay cash for my house and pay cash for my car, pay cash for my wedding. And I'm not really gonna go anywhere. Like I'm not interested in going to Greece or fucking
Right,
Tangiers, Algiers. I'm not going anywhere. I just want to sit on bread, work my ass off, and retire at 40 or 50 years old. That's all I knew growing up. That's everyone around me. Um, and then next to me though was like mafia shit, where
right.
everyone's uncles, dads were all doing stretches. Mob wars were happening in the 80s and 90s in South Philly with like Testa and Nicky Scarfo and what's his name, Joey Merlino and all these fucking guys. So like
Mhm.
I played ball with all their kids. I knew when their kids had a brand new Navigator one day just rolling up.
Right,
So I was around that. And then having everyone else, like I didn't really trust in art until I was in college because just no one I was, or I was like scared as shit to share it with somebody. You know what I mean? Like there's that one Master Killer line on School where he says, banging on the lunchroom tables, I used to spectate and watch all the MC greats. Like he talks about being around hip hop, but scared. You
right,
know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Like, I'm not there yet. Or even like
Yeah,
Nas says that shit don't represent. You know what I mean? He's like, I used to walk to the jam, thought brothers wouldn't understand, and now in every jam, I'm the fucking man. You know what I mean? But like, talk about that hesitancy. Like, ooh,
yeah, yeah.
I'm scared to share this with someone. Like Prem talks
Right.
about on that new, the Apollo Kids meal about his sister finding his shit.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like the interesting thing has been writing about stuff like that. Like I don't sit down like I used to. There's songs I wrote like that. Like the cold 6,000 on Career Crooks. That was like a deliberate story. Last Days of American Crime. There's like deliberate stories. I got a bunch of them shits, but now it's like lines like that come out where I'm just rapping. I'm just doing it in my head. The beat's playing. I'm rapping them. I'm just like reacting. So
Right.
I just kind of react now. I'm very instinctive now. Like Prem said it on our episode, maybe other pods about like having the notes in his phone. I got a lot of notes, you know what I mean? And then one
Yeah.
day my notepad thing, I only kept it on one note. I didn't make 1,000. I should have done that. He does that.
Right. Right.
I'm more economical. I get stressed out like seeing that many things.
It's fair.
So I feel like I'm being wasteful. But I
Mm,
one day I accidentally deleted my notes and it had like all these lines and fucking phrases and things I read and things I heard.
mm,
And I was like, oh shit. I was like, what do I do? And I
right.
was like, fuck it. Like, let's just go off what I already know. Like, keep adding on and adding on ideas outside of me. I was like, all right, what if I don't have that anymore? And then that kind of kicked off my last 3-4 years of not relying on anything else. So that line you were saying is like, I'm in that song talking about, you know, just drinking, hanging out, getting with girls.
Mm,
And in the middle of that, I just remembered a friend of mine whose girlfriend was fucking stabbed in front of his house over another girl wanted to get with him. They were mad. She fucking stabbed
right.
her.
Right.
And then I still see that girl walking around sometimes. She has a fucking limp.
Right.
Like that's real shit. And
Mm,
so what do you do? Your girl's stabbed. She almost died, but now she's disabled.
right.
He bounced. That's
And I was trying to explain like not everybody's like built for that. Not everybody's
right.
like the remember that 50-50 movie when he got cancer and his girl kind of skipped out and was like, I'm not ready for this
Right.
thing. Uh
Yeah.
and it was, I know the movie devices were supposed to be mad at her, but not everybody's built for that situation,
Nah,
man.
bro. No.
Not everybody's built for that. Like that is not everybody's jam. So it's interesting to see those characters get spotlights and really specific images that live in your shit that don't live anywhere else. And
Mm,
I mean, my favorite song on the album is 10 Deep with Six Packs. There's no,
yeah.
uh, you know, great
Thanks, man.
first line. We used to pray at the Basilica. Then we went home and just played some Daz Dillinger. Uh,
Yeah. That's true.
East Coast Riders with the West Coast inspired us. Like, no, it's it's conversational, but there's definitely like high poetic moments in a
Mm,
way of like,
thank you.
let's try to find. Oh yeah, I don't know why. It's just really well written, really well written. What a doozy! Wedding favors, Mr. and Mrs. Beer koozies from yours truly. We're supposed to have gratitude for enemies. Peppermint schnapps inside the Listerine.
Strike nerves like Ghost Verse on Can It Be?
I just to go from like the Mr. and Mrs. Beer koozies at the wedding and to be like, we're supposed to have gratitude for enemies and we're supposed to drink peppermint schnapps from inside the Listerine.
Yeah.
It's just sharp, different imagery that like keep like I want to hear the rest of this story, you know?
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. That's I it's that all that came from was I just come back from someone's wedding and I put a jacket on. I'm like, oh, there's a beer koozie from there. Oh, I forgot they gave me this. This is cool. I'm like, should I throw this out? It's kind of disrespectful if I throw this out because I was like, every time I drink a beer, do I want to see Bridget and Max? You know what I
Right,
mean?
right. It's
October 2019, they did it, and I was like, I thought that was funny as shit. I was like, what a doozy. The wedding favors, Mr. and Mrs. Beer Koozies. I was like, from yours truly. The gratitude for enemies line, that's a very real Buddhist idea. Like you're supposed to be grateful
right.
for your enemy. Because your
Four Noble
enemy
Truths.
it
Four
is.
Noble
Right.
Truths.
It teaches you about yourself. It teaches you restraint. It teaches you
Yep.
like how to not react. It teaches you how to forgive. It teaches you
Attachment,
like you
right? To
did
let
something
go of attachment.
karmically right.
Yeah.
Like you did something karmically incorrect to make you and this other person bump heads. So it gives you opportunities to reevaluate yourself. and then we're supposed to have gratitude for enemies. Peppermint schnapps inside of Listerine. That's from the fucking Sean Astin movie Toy Soldiers, where I say that later on, like toys, Sean
Right,
Astin.
like Sean Astin
Yeah.
in the
So
'80s.
they
Yeah,
do that at the
yeah,
beginning. They got the Listerine bottles, but they're drinking it. It's got booze in it. And they're drinking it in the fucking
yeah.
dorm. So I don't know, man. That beat just put me in a happy
But
mood. I
that's
was
such
just
a
happy
cool,
as
like,
shit.
to go from like this personal story to this Buddhist truth to this childish memory is like that is such a Zilla mix
Thank you.
of things. It's yeah, but there's no airs put on, but it's a very cinematic deal. I was in my head. I was thinking Midnight Suns is if Midnight Suns were a movie, it
Hmm.
would be a comic book movie. It would be a big, giant comic book movie,
Yeah.
with incredible characters coming in. You're like,
Hmm.
holy shit, Nature came in. He sounds like Cool G Rap. Like,
Yeah.
damn.
Hmm.
Um, but if Vegas Vic was a movie, it would be the cooler.
Wow. That's a great fucking movie. I saw that in the theater.
And
What's her
just
name's in that too? Maria Bello, Philly girl.
you watch the cooler and you're like, this is a beautiful little movie with a great cast that I will never fucking forget. You know,
Thank you. Thank
um,
you, man. That's my shit. I love the cooler. Yeah, it was it's we use a lot of samples from the Hard Eight in the movie,
yep.
or on
Already.
on the album, I should say. But even that is like I could watch that. It's one of the rare Paul Thomas Anderson movies that's like short and you could just kind of check in and check out on it. It's not like
Oh,
I can't check in and check out Magnolia, you know what I mean, or like Boogie Nights or some shit or The Master.
mhm.
Like I love all the movies, but like Hard Eight is like it's a cool little cable joint. You know what I mean? Throw it on. It's not supposed to be this world beating affair with all this detail. It's just a cool story about an aging gambler and like his young mentee who fucks up.
Yeah, I feel like that is your Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And if Castro's writing style was a P.T. Anderson movie, it would be Inherent Vice. It would be this kind
Yeah.
of
Yes.
layered plot, like
Yes.
unwinding all these characters, and yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a
I
great
love it.
wow.
I
I've
love it.
tried to watch that movie twice and I fall asleep and and I wake up, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know who these
I love
people
it.
are, but I'm like, I'd like it. I just don't know what is happening.
It's such an insane book. The Pension book is
I
so
never
good.
read Pension. I never read them.
That's the one to read because it's kind of like Pynchon doing Lebowski. It's kind of
Mm,
Pynchon being like, I'm gonna go with like a goofy surfer story, but I'm Pynchon, so it'll be insane. Uh, and it's wonderful. And the
great.
fact that he was able to do it at all competently is pretty great.
That's
Um,
awesome.
because it's an insane story. But yeah, the interesting thing, talk about Colo Culture podcast, I'd have to at least ask one question about it.
Yeah, sure.
How has it changed how people digest the music or how you make the music?
It's given us it's given us new fans, which is the shit. I mean, that was, I'm not gonna lie and say, if 15 people were listening every week, we would still do it. Probably not.
Right.
Because it takes a lot of time. You know what I mean? It's like time away from my family every week, and then I got to edit the episodes, and then we do ads, and we got to schedule people to come on and talk about topics, and put up on different outlets and shit. Like what it's like to run all this stuff by yourself. Like we're
Sure.
like small business owners. You know what I mean? Like all of us, you included. So it's like,
Mhm.
is it worth me doing? Like, what am I getting out of it? You know what I mean? And so I think it's helped us. It's helped us get more or give people more context for us because I think me, Castro, and Alaska are not like YouTube guys. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right,
we
right,
watch
right,
YouTube, but it's not our instinct. We're not of that generation to be in front of a camera all the time on fucking TikTok or,
right, right.
even doing IG lives, which I started doing a few of them. It's a very like weird foreign experience, but I like it. You get like
Mhm.
people chiming in and people jumping on the call. It's really fun, but it's just not like our go-to. So I
No.
think I think me and Castro, any woman we've ever been with in our friendship, all tell us like, "Can you fucking hang up with this guy? Like, Jesus, like, why you guys talk all the fucking time?" So I think that's dope to have like a an archive of conversations, and then Alaska jumps in, obviously, and
Right.
I think it's helped people want to, even if they don't like the music, that's fine. Like they want to spend time with us each week, which is dope. You know what I mean? Because w- touring is really that. I mean, that used to be the only way to really know people. You know what I mean? It was like touring, and then if they're doing like videos, but now there's like Twitch and all that shit. You know what I mean? So it's helpful as artists to not feel like, well, I'm gonna be gone for 3 weeks. I might make $40. I might lose $800. But I'm hoping who's ever out there like sticks with me. You know what I mean? Over time, versus we can do a show in our houses and for a very minimal fee, like get it out and hit people all over the world, and then they can support us if they choose to, however they want. And then someday if we want to go these places, we at least know between Spotify analytics for our regular music and all other shit and the pod, like these are the places we could do well. So I think it's really just a way to honestly, like I've said it before, maybe to other people, but it like we're building a community also, which I really like. You know what I mean? Like I love having Prem on a lot, having Gang on a bunch early, Scorsese, uh, and then newer people, people we never had before, like Chanel Ali, who's a comedian, and More Mother's been on a few times.
Yep.
Theravada. And now it's like I feel like we're also doing something where we're putting people on to people, which we love. You know what I mean? It's shit we're doing all the time.
One of the greatest culture guests of all time, dude.
Dude's the best, man. Dude rules. Yeah. And so it's like that shit all of us would do anyway. Be like, yo, did you hear this shit? Yo, listen to this shit. You know what I mean? Like, okay, on a podcast, we can bring that person on. You know what I mean? We could talk to them. We can play their music, or people request to be on the show and we're like, yo, I think you'd be good, or I think I love your album. Like, why don't you come on and talk? And so it's like I used to work in a record store. So it gives me that feeling of like, I used to have like the 4 or 5 customers that would come in and we would like talk, yo, grab this. Oh, you told me about that one. That one was fire. Oh, I like that scene. Yo, I'm going to go see them next week. You want to go? It was like, just being music nerds. And it's something that like, I understand when rappers like transition out of rap, like Nori, and just want to do this shit. I get it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's way more fun. You don't have to travel and lose money.
No, it's definitely so. And when I started Free Music Empire, one of the things that I feel like honestly sustained me was I never thought of my writing as art. Like if I wrote a really killer review, I was like, that's not art. That's just supporting your art.
Right.
Like when I was reviewing Midnight Suns, I was like stretching, getting right. I'm like, this is my album, and I've got to do this justice, right? I don't want to fail this art. So, but it was never like I just made some art. It was never that shit. So, but podcasts, a lot of people don't know how much hell it is. Like actually doing a podcast and keeping it going, it's hard. Like I had a philosophy podcast for 2 years, and for every episode I did like 10 to 13 pages of research.
God damn.
And but like we just sucked at like technical shit. And so like I had a great guest and we had a great conversation. We got none of it. And I had done like 13 pages of research, and I'm like, nah, man.
It's over.
So when we started State of the Game, I was like calling it a music show. I was just like, didn't want to admit that it was a podcast. But no, it's everybody kind of wants to start a podcast.
Of course.
But then when you're 10, 20 episodes deep, you start to see people fall off.
Of course.
Yeah.
I posted that thing on Twitter a few weeks back. It was like whatever percentage of Apple iPods or Apple podcasts, there's only one episode for.
Right.
It's like 60% of podcasts have one episode. Isn't that fucking crazy?
But
again, it takes discipline. Like, I don't know what else to say.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, if you don't have discipline to do a fucking podcast, that means something else in your life you're not really following through on either. You know what I mean? Or you just did it just for fun. You're like, that's not really my thing. Okay. But your work ethic, you really can't do it. Like shout out to people like Southern Vanguard. They've done like 300 fucking episodes. They do multiple episodes a week. It's insane. I can't do that.
Aisha Tyler's been podcasting since the fucking 80s or something. Like,
Mark Maron. I mean,
yeah,
dude's got in earlys. Even Bill Simmons. He got it. I was listening to his
yep,
shit on airplanes in like
straight
'07
up,
on flights.
yep, yep, yep. Now he's like podcasting Jeff Bezos.
Of course.
But yeah, no,
Podcasting Jeff Bezos.
it's great, and I think it's really interesting that like this is such a crew record. Midnight Sun was full of these features from interesting, different people. Where
Yeah.
you were like, I'm tired of it, the same people on all these records, and I was living in this dream world where like for the rest of your career, you were gonna pluck super interesting people and make them yes. Because I always thought people should do that.
Yeah.
I, why is Eminem still working with Pink when he could reach back and grab Grand Poobah and then just let
Yes.
it run?
The
Why
fuck
not?
are you doing, bro?
Right. But so
Well, for this one, it was deliberate. It was a deliberate choice. Like, I
Crew
will say,
Love.
I'll preface it by saying the Wrecking Crew album, Sedale Threat, which we're working on, we have those type of guests. They
Nice.
are there. I promise you. They're guests. You just well, you could not. You would just go crazy trying to guess who they are, and I'll say no every time. Um,
Unbelievable.
for this one, it was just like, again, going back to like Vegas Vic, Double Down, Bet on Yourself. I was like, this is to me, this was a Ghostface album. I was like, I want to have Ghostface energy for this shit. And when I thought about it, I was like, Ghostface didn't put people on his albums. It was his. It was the Clan, or it was
Yep.
Theodore. That's it. So it
That,
wasn't like, oh, the Ghostface album's over. Why isn't Tupac on this? Oh, the
right.
Ghostface.
Nobody.
Why isn't Faith Evans here? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like it was like, no, I got Raekwon on 7 songs. I'm great. I got Kappa on 4 songs. Awesome. I got Master Killer on 2 joints. So I was just like, when I was, I got I Alive on the record. I love that dude, and
Right.
pulling him on, and but really it was like Prem. It was like I got to get Scorsese before he passed, which is an honor. But I was just like, yo, this is it. Like I'm not doing all that for this one. It doesn't. I think we're good enough now to be like, when you see the track listing and you see these names, you're like, fuck, I'm in. Not like, oh shit, there's Planet Asia and fucking Drag On and whoever. Like it's
Right.
we have records like that. I'm not knocking that, but I just think for this one, I was like, I think Prem and Alex Ludovico and Alaska and Castro and I Alive and Scorsese, like, I don't really need more than that. You know what I mean? I think I'm good.
No, and it's a great point. Think of it as a Ghostface album because, like, with Ghostface, you're right. You never had those expectations of like, where's my big features? You were always like,
Right.
I just want Ghostface to dig further into Ghostface.
Right.
I just want more chambers of Ghostface.
Yeah, and then here and there, like Lord Superb, sprinkle in. RZA, sprinkle in. Like Meth, here and there, wonderful. Good to
Right,
see you. You know what I mean? But like, I don't need Nas. I don't need Memphis Bleak. I don't
right,
need these fucking guys on the Ghostface record. But when
right.
he's on someone else's record, you're like, oh shit, he's gonna do something special.
Get that Bubba Sparks feature on that Ghostface record. That would be
Oh man, Pastor Troy, he really carried Supreme Clientele.
that would be awesome. But no, it's you're right. And so that's what makes sense. Where all these people are existing relationships, and
Right.
it's a celebration of those existing relationships. And the front half of the record is you really diving into stories and shit. The second half is much more like crew love. I mean, Yiddish Pimps is so fun. Uh,
Yeah, that was the first song we made for the Bourbon Generals record, which we did a couple songs in May together. Where it was the first time me and Prem like wrote together on the spot.
yeah,
It's the rare song because we've done about 5-6 songs. That's the rare song he's opened. It's like that with Shrapnel, where this motherfucker usually is taking a while, and
yeah,
he opened that joint, and we just me, him, Barry, and Steel Tip Dove all together in a room.
yeah.
And that song was gonna be for that record. And then when we were putting this album together, I said to Barry, I was like, dude, I think fucking Yiddish Pimps should go on this album, dude. Like, I'm pulling the Jay-Z and being like, actually, the best records I'm working on, I don't care where no, they go on this. They all
Right.
come to this one. And he was like, all right. He's like, I don't think so, but all right. He's like, he listened to the arrangement. He was like, fuck, you're right. And so I texted Prem and I was like, yo, are you okay with me putting this on my album instead of our group project? He was like, fuck yeah, like do it. So yeah, that song, that was like our first time all of us being together making a song. So now we kind of know what it is, which is great. But that joint was just, Camp Low. I mean, that's the whole point of Bourbon Generals is Camp Low, is not Shrapnel. It's me and Prem trading off. No one just raps. It's got to be 4 bars here, 8 bars here, 12 bars, 2 bars, 6 bars. Like that's the rule.
That's awesome. No, it's yeah, no, it's a real cool achievement. It's different. It's a different chamber of
Mm,
like what you've done,
thanks,
um,
man.
and I think that's what's what's interesting about it, and what when people get into color culture and then dive into the back catalog, there's so many different things. Like you were talking about, good luck with that with Career Crooks.
Hmm.
That's such a an album full of bangers. Least
Yeah.
important, most important, corrupt novelist. Um, shit just knocks, you know. Um, and then to follow it up with what you guys have got is is superbly interesting.
Thanks, man.
It feels like you're digging into like there's levels of nostalgia for 90s hip hop. I talk about this with nostalgia all the time. That nostalgia whittles it down
Hmm.
to like what we liked most about such and such, right? So Tupac's always writing poetry or whatever. Uh, but he spent just as much time kicking people in the face or whatever. Like it was, it's uh, people are more complicated than that. So the '90s has so many different levels of boom bap
Right.
uh, and flavors that you're like this Career Crooks record, Vegas Vic. They sound like the kind of '90s albums people may have forgotten about, or but
Yes.
that were like amazing, like main ingredient kind of
Mm.
situation. Um, that's my take on that.
Yeah, even like Jay-Z Volume 1. Like that's no one talks
Yeah,
about that shit. You
that
know what I
is
mean?
that is an almost classic. That
Yeah,
is of like I love the almost classic. People don't give enough love to the album that could have been a classic
right.
if these couple songs weren't on it.
Right.
Uh, to me,
Or
that
even like the one I always talk about that always broke my heart was the All City record. Because and so on my end, like when we make our albums, we'll reference songs like that or we'll pull lines and shit. But it's more like, why didn't these dudes keep making those same 3 core songs?
right,
I'm gonna do that. Like I'm gonna make the All City album the way I want it to be because they had some great moments on Metropolis Gold, but again, they're on like Motown Records and whatever the fuck the investment was, and they
right,
needed to make 3, 4 club songs that were trash. Versus like now, all of us have that freedom to be like, yo, even like the Lloyd Banks album that people love. I haven't checked it yet, but
mm,
he's not beholden to like, fuck, I gotta like really impress Dr. Dre and 50. Like, I just want to rap, dude. And I'm gonna
right,
pick hard ass beats. And if people like that, they're gonna love it. And that's all I have to do. And I think
yep,
for us, it's like, yeah, we all have like those records near and dear to our heart that are classics. But yeah, like the ones that are like, man, this is like a 3 mic album. But
right, right,
fuck, like the parts of it that I really like, I really, really like. And I'm gonna learn from these guys and be like, okay, the shit you were clawing at, I'm gonna like excavate that motherfucker.
right.
Like, I'm gonna do it on my record.
I'm
You know
gonna
what I mean?
make the album you almost made. You know,
Straight up.
yeah. No, that's excellent. It's almost like watching your friends go through relationships and seeing their troubles and being like, okay, I'm
Yeah. Or
I'm
like
checking.
Canada and the US. Canada just sits back and watches fuck everything up. They're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this to our citizens. Maybe we shouldn't make that
Right.
our policy. Okay.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's but yeah, I hope the reception continues.
Thanks, man.
I hope there's powerful merch invasion, Chung Wizard style.
Oh yes. Like I,
Coming.
I just saw the cassettes. They look incredible. Yes, we're waiting on vinyl. Should be in the next week or so, but the cassettes and the CDs look, and that's all PQ. She has a PQ.
Um,
PQ's another guy, man. Yo, I've known PQ since like '08 from fucking Philly rap message boards and being at shows and kicking it. And that dude's another one. Like he's outlasted so many people. He just
damn.
works. He gets busy. He takes advantage of certain things. He just delivers, man. He's another one. Like I've had a lot of other design people. Some I dip off for a while. Some I come back to. Some I use once, I never use again. He's someone where it's like when it came down to this artwork, I went through so many headaches to get art for this record, and finally I was like, you know what? Everyone's using PQ, but I'm gonna use them the way I want to use them. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like he's gonna do something a little bit separate. So when you everyone starts seeing the package and the artwork, it's like it's his look, but it's my look. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
and then it's Chong's ideas too. Like all of us were pretty solid with how things were gonna be. But again, that's like we said at the beginning of the talk. Like once he started getting busy again, he was on my radar. I was on his again. We rekindled our friendship, and we're getting busy. You know, he remixed joints for me last year that got played on Shade 45, which is nuts. You
Yeah.
know, and then he's selling prints, and all the Griselda do is repost his shit, which is crazy. Makami.
Woo.
So you know, PQ again, it's just work. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's like
He's the shit is the cleanest. Like
it really is, and there's so
you
much
can see
detail.
every line, you can see everything. It's the
Yeah, man. He's
cleanest.
I'm just excited because again I knew him when no one was checking for him. Same thing. You know what I mean? Like might design a show flyer at a show where there's 15 people. He was doing that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now he's
Yeah.
got like I said, like Makami or whoever sharing his shit.
No, it's great to see people win and to be there for people to win, and that's kind of the whole, you know, that's the extra lap, the victory lap that Vegas Vic is.
Thanks, man.
Um, yeah. Any final shots with people? Follow $3 pistol.
Yeah,
Uh,
$3pistol.com, man.
hat if
Um,
you like.
yeah, man. We got the hats, got some pins, got some shirts, got the Alex Ludovico record, Cocaine and Therapy, my first non
Great,
me project.
great.
I've been trying to line a couple more non me albums. It's it's taken some goading as a label head now, or as a manager or fucking A&R, whatever I am. But yeah, man, it's I'm hoping to put out an Andrew record at the end of the year with me.
Ooh,
He's working on it right now, and then he and I have an album that probably drop next year. So that album, I forget what the working title is, but I've been playing snippets of it on IG. Um, yeah, man. And then we got the Career Crooks album, Never at Peace. That's gonna be dropping in winter. So we're dealing with vinyl right now for that joint. But yeah, Vegas Vic is just I mean, I was looking back on my dates. I think I started writing it like October 2019, October
oh wow,
November, and then COVID, but kind of banged it out, and then was just waiting for physicals, all that shit you have to wait for now. But it came together pretty quick, and in between, when I started to now, it's like our podcast has grown, my friends have grown. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Midnight Suns did really well, so I'm excited just to see again, like we said, betting on me and my friends, like can that hit? And even if it doesn't, like I don't give a fuck. I think it's hot. You know what I mean? I like it. Like
I'm
I
with
like
it.
all the rhymes on there. I like the beats I picked. I like working with Barry. So to me, it's an achievement either way. And it's like the more work, was it the prize for good work is more work. And I feel like
You know,
there's always work. You know what I mean? So we got
always.
the Career Crooks album coming out. Like I said, me and Ray West. I'm waiting to hear back from Ray. He's super busy, but our album's done. And then working on the Wrecking Crew record right now. Sedale
Good
Threat
stuff.
and the podcast, man, is a lot. So there's a lot of shit when you step back. You're like, damn. But
No, that's and so it always has to. It always has to be someone else that tells me that I'm working really hard
mm,
because I always just get really into what I'm doing.
yeah, like what else would I do, bro? You know what I mean? Like what else would I
Yeah,
want to
and
do?
so by the time they're like, "You've been doing a lot of stuff lately," I'm like, "Oh, I guess I have."
Yeah, dude. Like shouts to you, bro. Like, that Midnight Suns review, when I sat there and read that shit, I was just like, I probably read it like 4 times. And me and Chong were DMing on Instagram. We were like, yo, this fucking guy gets it, man. Like this shit is crazy. Like I come from a time when, I was locking down a lot of press and like
Mhm.
getting at people and get a post here and there. And I'm like, that shit doesn't mean anything, bro. Like none of that means anything.
Right.
Because it was just, back in the era, you were just scrolling through a page and there was 15 fucking people put out something that day. So when you did that review, And I started checking you out a lot more, and I was like, man, I don't really know who's reading this shit. I have no clue. I
Right.
don't know what's going on with this site. I was like, but this person is sitting here dedicating his thoughts and his time to write this shit
Yep.
and understanding what we're doing and pulling in, images from Philadelphia, the book.
Hmm.
I was like, wow, okay, this is the core. Like, I need people like this now. Like, this is what it is versus, oh yeah, it's up on this site that no one's looking at. Go click on it, and then and if you go to site, here's a link to buy my shit. They're not even doing anything. They're not even. It's just fucking PR, which is you need PR. I'm not shitting on that, but it's just like
Right.
it doesn't mean anything. And so Chong and I talked about that a lot, where we were like, "Yo, this album's not even blowing up with press and people want to talk to us," but like you said about like Mark Spector's team and all that,
Yep.
it's been ill to see it, and then subscribing to your stuff, and then watching what you're doing, and then giving you records. I'm like, yo, I think you would like this,
Hmm.
and then seeing you go crazy, like that's the shit. And that's
Fun.
I think that's the joy of doing all this is whatever money we get, it could be significant, it could be not a lot. It's just all us now. It's
Straight up.
everything from all of our ideas. So idea for a hat, idea for a shirt, an idea for an album, packaging, a fucking Instagram thing, whatever.
Right.
It's just we're not like consumers anymore. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're
Totally.
investors and we're creators, and our consumers can also invest and create as well. You know what I mean? So it's like you've invested in our product. I'm invested in yours.
Right.
I think it's fucking wonderful. And so I think there's a shit no one when everyone's stopped complaining for a second and crying and bitching, we can sit back and be like, yo, we can all just do the dopest shit we want pretty easily and pretty cheaply now. And it's
Right.
wonderful. You know what I mean? And so being a part of our Patreon and growing that and watching you grow your site and your channels, it's like the people that really want it, that's who we're talking to now. You know what I mean? Like it's not about having the fake following numbers and page views and all that shit and streams. I don't care. It's like I want to have my 100 people locked in with us with
Right.
everything. You know what I mean? Not like this one there's 5,000. Next one there's 40. No, I want like
Yep.
the ones that really hold it near and dear. You know what I mean? Because there's people I'm like that about. Like, A$AP Rock, anything that fucking guy touches,
Right.
I'm purchasing it. Period. For the rest of my life. That's already
Right.
set in stone. He's got me. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I'm all in. So
Yep.
it's like, yeah, man. Shouts to I don't know. I'm rambling like a motherfucker, but and I've been talking all day, so my voice is cracked. But yeah, man, this is dope. Just having conversations and having fun. And
Yeah.
shouts to
No.
technology. Shouts to
It's
backwoods, Prem
technology.
Rock, Castro,
No.
Little Bear, Crow's Feet.
It's great, and it's because there were some times where I would like Google a review of an album that I did, and I would and I was the first hit, and I was like, "How am I the first hit?" Because no one else had found the fucking album.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I
You
would,
know,
and I was like, "Damn!" Like, at least if somebody's looking up this album, I stuck the fucking landing on that review,
bang,
and now that artist can say, "This is what you fucking need to know,"
straight
um,
up.
and that's a lot of fun. Uh, but it's a lot of fun seeing people win and get better, and be like, "This isn't even the best record. Like the best
Mm,
record is coming.
yeah,
Follow that motherfucker." You
yeah.
know?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't even know. I'm not the type to sit there like, oh, this is my best shit. This is the best one. This is that. To me, it's just. I have a notebook over here that has all my shit. I'll grab it real quick. It's got all the shit I work on. Because people back in the day used to have studios and they would write all the
Mhm.
sessions and notes. So I just like write down all the shit on the dates. So whatever I'm doing, it's like, you know, it's not just like, oh, here's the Vegas Vic time. It's like,
Right.
oh, I was doing a Castro remix the same time I was doing a verse for Griffin Scorsese, the same time I was doing a verse for Chong Wizard,
Mhm.
the same time I sent beats to Wally Clark. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was January 2019.
Yep.
It's like all of this shit is like who the frig knows? You know what I mean? It's just all happening because it's just always moving. Like you said, like you step back, you're like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, I did the vocals for Vamoose a week
Right.
before COVID. There you go.
And it's not to say that like their albums don't have specific meanings, plots, and
Right.
formulations. They do, and some it just wasn't necessarily intentional, right? It
Right.
came out,
Yes.
but it formed itself into a conversation, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
older records are very personal with very personal songs about relatives dying and shit like that.
Right.
Uh, and Midnight Suns is an overview. That is like, you know what, that guy's on the take. That
Hmm.
police ain't shit. You know this, and it's very systematic. Like of like
Right.
this whole shit's broken, and then to start this with $5 God, like your your pen's in a different place at this point, and
Mm.
so it organizes itself differently. So
Thanks, man.
yeah, no problem,
That's
man. I
about
would
it, bro. I think we
that's
covered a lot here, man. This was
that's what I
solid
got to
work.
say. The only thing I would left to say is Stephanie Beatrice, you're doing great,
Shouts to Stephanie.
killing it.